Coming up on Network Africa. South Africa's governing party, the African National Congress, begins its 6-day policy conference. Saudi Arabia extends a 90-day amnesty program for undocumented migrants. And rights activists march through Kenya's capital, Nairobi, to demand justice for murdered lawyer Willie Kimani. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers. We begin in Johannesburg, South Africa, where the governing party, the African National Congress, the ANC, is holding a policy conference for the next 6 days. But the deep divisions of infighting and factionalism are threatening to reduce the meeting into a public squabble about the future leadership of the party. The ANC goes into this policy conference divided between those who support President Jacob Zuma and those who prefer his deputy, Cyril Ramaphosa. The delegates are going to discuss land reform, inclusive economic growth, health and education, with the aim of dealing with the massive unemployment, poverty and inequality largely emanating from the legacy of apartheid.
You need to spend more time finding solutions to problems, whether they are political or governmental or social. Conference will also need to look at the balance of forces and the resistance to socio-economic transformation that will continue to hinder the implementation of our policies and programs.
Let's get more on the story from South African journalist Bazukile Diko, who joins us live from Johannesburg. You're welcome to the program.
Hello, Jackie.
Yes, certainly. What more can you tell us about the ANC's policy conference holding in Johannesburg?
What I can tell you is that it's taking place at the Nasrec Center, which is in the south of Johannesburg. 4,000 ANC delegates are in attendance at this policy conference, which takes place every 5 years. And this is the 5th policy conference to take place since democracy in 1994.
We understand that some of the party's stalwarts who have already called for President Zuma to step down are boycotting this gathering. How is the ANC reacting to this?
Well, what the president said during his opening address at the conference earlier today is that he was not impressed with how the stalwarts chose to voice their concerns through the media. He went on to say that they have, as the ANC, had discussions with the stalwarts, even though they didn't follow proper processes. He says that, you know, they wanted their own conference to address issues that they say won't be ironed out during this conference, and that they somehow think they have power. So in a way, on one hand, it appears that he feels that he's addressed their concerns in private, but feels that they also think they have power that they do not possess to overtake the conference agenda, and that it's something somewhat to be ignored for now.
How wide do you think this agenda will be? Will the party use the meeting to talk about some of the issues affecting the ANC, for instance, the state capture report and the many corruption allegations against the president?
What we do know is that state capture was one of the things he touched on. He did finally commit to saying that a judicial commission of inquiry would be the only way to get to the bottom of these allegations. He went on to say that this policy conference is an opportunity for the African National Congress to cleanse itself of negative tendencies, which he says have crept in over the last number of years, such as patronage, corruption, factionalism, and abuse of power. But he did not indicate that he was part of this problem. It is highly unlikely, Joke, that the president himself as an individual would become a topic of discussion as we well know, the ANC has fully backed their president and he's likely to stay in his position until the elections, the national elections, which are scheduled for 2019.
Well, finally, there have been media reports that President Zuma told the conference that South Africa's economy will likely fail to meet the 1.1% annual growth targeted by the government. What's his reason for saying this?
He didn't go in depth as to the reasons, but of course, what he did say, excuse me, Joke, is that given the current difficulties that the country is facing, right now we are in a technical recession. We've had two ratings agencies, namely S&P and Fitch, downgrade us to junk status. He says with regards to that, it really shows that our country is in a difficult place, and that this policy conference will be important in setting out policies that will reignite growth. You might remember that several months ago, President Jacob Zuma made a decision to remove both the finance minister and his deputy, and that sent us into a tailspin of some sort, and saw those credit rating agencies downgrade us. But he doesn't seem to acknowledge that move as part of the problem, but simply says that the current environment as a whole is not conducive to growth, and that it's now incumbent on the ruling party to come up with policies that are vibrant and that will stimulate that growth. Decisions that they do make at this conference, as you mentioned in your intro, touching on economy, on land, and many other social issues such as health, decisions that are made at this conference will only be ratified at the elective conference, which will be held in December. That same conference is where a new leader and new leadership across the board will be elected for the African National Congress. Only time will tell just how effective the policies that they do come up with, how effective they will be in changing the lives of South Africans, but certainly they will be deliberating over the next couple of days, and we certainly hope that something tangible and more action rather than speak will actually be the result of this national policy conference.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on that and your time on Network Africa. Bazukile Diko, a South African journalist, talking to us there. Let's move on.